So, um, yeah, let's go ahead and get started. Um, yeah, we like to start out. There's a couple new folks here. So, Kirsten and Rick, if you guys want to just briefly, because the reason why is we want to know what you do and kind of how you want to help or how we can, refer to you for help. So that's why we asked for the quick intros. So,
Sure, I can go first. Hi, everybody. I'm Kirsten. I'm a technical program manager at Datadog, which is a US-based company in observability and monitoring. I work out of New York City on their API platform team, who's making it kind of easy to build APIs internally within Datadog. Oops, that's an alarm. And yeah, I'm just trying to learn all things platform engineering. I've spent about 10 years in the program management space doing all kinds of things, and platform engineering, yeah, really resonates with me. So how I want to help. Yeah, I don't know, still just kind of getting started. Got access, yeah, to the Git repo and the Slack channel, and just kind of observing first everything going on. And that's me.
it sounds like you kind of run an internal platform at Datadog.
Yes. Yep.
Cool. Great to have your insights. Hey, Rick.
Rick Kosowski. I'm a principal engineer at Seagate. I'm based in the suburbs of Chicago. I was with Josh last night at the meetup downtown. I currently work under our Live Cloud brand, which is a object storage service or storage as a service. And it all runs on Kubernetes. So I'm very interested in getting the ability to build that out. And I'm on my iPad because of IT wouldn't let me join the meeting on my work laptop. So I don't know why my iPad is auto focusing there. Hopefully that stops soon. I'm very focused on helping to see what we can do to help kind of evangelize platforms internally. Helping to get past a lot of the politics of what that means for that. So not necessarily the technology, but kind of the people side of it. And then how we can help to build that out and grow and kind of show some of the value very early on. So I've been in communication with Abby and some of the folks at Craddox on some of that. But in the meantime, we've just been battling some internal reorgs and politics and things like that are making it hard to actually progress forward through some of this stuff. So hoping to help contribute and kind of be a use case or a sounding board for what type of information do we need to help kind of move some of this forward.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's great to have people that are building platforms providing, feedback to us and discussion. Okay, moving on. One thing I wanted to bring up, I've been thinking about, this group, we are trying to move forward, cooperative delivery of applications and infrastructure and move forward platforms. We put out the paper kind of as a strategic motion. Now, we're looking, we have ideas and we're pursuing things, but I want to, just reiterate, like if people have suggestions, like, to improve the platform practice or things that we should pursue as a group, share, open up and that's what I was getting to, kind of the GitHub issue. Thank you, Saeem, for opening those issues. It's also fine if somebody has a PR to add straight to the paper on a topic, we can discuss it that way too. And if some, like Abby's maturity model, I was going to say, like, I've been hearing so much the past couple of weeks, even last night, about people like, we love the strategy, now help us implement it. That kind of stuff fits in really well. Yeah, so going down the list, somebody added KubeCon CFPs. I didn't add that. Saeem, you did. Okay. Did you want to? So I think a couple of these are yours, Saeem. Do you want to share with us what you wanted to talk about on those?
Yes, I think one thing I need to discuss here. Let me know if my voice is clear. Josh, is it good enough?
Yeah, very good.
Okay. So actually, I think after a few months of later this year, we're mostly in the Chicago for the CF KubeCon Chicago and in November. I think on that time, I think the platform paper might have some good things in there because we're working on it on a weekly or the monthly basis. So this means we have to be in the visibility zone in the KubeCon. So I'm thinking here, like, we should consider going for the CFPs. That is very important for this group to have some participation in this KubeCon Chicago, because some of the things is really critical in this platform engineering wave as for months to come. Number one is I'm talking to a lot of people these days around how to measure the success of the platform and the platform team. Is this idea is new, but you have to measure it. Otherwise, things are really tougher to understand. So I think the CFP is very important for all us. For us, I think Abby, Josh, or anyone on the call today, I think we have to be friends or actually team up with for the some of the CFP as well. So I'm open to collaboration as well. But I think this group should go for the CFPs. There is not just KubeCon Chicago. There's App Delivery Con co-located event happening as well in the KubeCon, a co-located event. So
App developer.
App developer con. So I think these are the avenues we have to write it up. So I think like Josh and Abby and other, like, we have to think about, because the dates is very, very less. 18th is the last date for the submission. So I think we have to stress this more. Like we have to submit few of the topics, few of the very, very important topics. I heard this new term come up, shift down. There's another term being popping up with the internet that's called self-service infrastructure platform. So going down the road, we already incorporated those changes. Now it's telling people on the KubeCon, we have some group coming up, so they have some visibility. I think visibility is important. I think my focus is to have team up coming up so we can go for some submissions.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy. We should talk about platforms and stuff as much as you want. Are you looking for people to partner with to prepare a CFP? Are you asking us as a group to prepare a CFP?
Yes, I think like some of us, we go for the lightning talk, some of the go for the solo talk, some of the go for the panel talk as well. So having different visibility zone inside the CFP. So I'm currently looking for someone to team up with for some of the, like, this topic is tough, like how to measure the success of the platform and platform team is a tougher. I need someone to partner with for this CFP, but there are lightning talk, there are some workshops, there are so much things you can talk about. So I think having different talk track, we have to submit it. That is very important because I believe during November, we have so much to showcase. And today is actually, we are closing down the CFPs. So if we miss this opportunity, we have a hard time of telling what we are doing in the CNCF platform working group.
Yeah, that's a really good point. The deadline is this Friday. So
yes. I think Sunday, I guess 18th is a Sunday, I guess. Sunday, usually Sunday is the last day. Sunday. I think 18th. Yeah, Sunday is the last.
Yeah. Trying to think how to support you there, Saeem. So, I mean, people here are hearing, and we'll share the update on the thing. Maybe we should bump on our channel in the next day or two. Like, hey, get your submissions in, make sure, and yeah, if just trying to think, just put up there you're looking for a partner.
Yes, I can. So I can add a Google Doc in there, just specifically for the KubeCon CFP, and then we add interested parties in there. Yes, okay. So I will surely ping some message.
Cool. Yeah, sounds good. Sounds very good. And also, I'm just going to call out, I did open this issue number 408, and we're going to talk about it at the next tag meeting if anybody is interested. The tag meetings, this is a project meeting for platforms, but on the 21st we have the all up tag meeting, and there we'll discuss the pre-day and how we might partner. I think certainly the GitOps folks are pretty interested in how we can streamline, and maybe there are a couple others also. So if you're interested in that, come on the 21st. we definitely, I heard Saeem, it's worth mentioning also, there is an app developer day being planned for November 6th also now. They also saw backstage conference on that day, so already overfilled.
Yes, absolutely.
We haven't even started.
Absolutely. So there is a tweet from CNCF is also. So I can share the link on the chat as well. Like I have a link, so I can share.
Okay. Let's tip forward then to the next item. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Saeem. Which is maturity model, which I think is really, I'm so happy you're working on that because it's definitely what we need to be focused on now. So can you tell us what's up?
Yeah. First of all, it's not the Abby maturity model. It's just the maturity model. But yes, so it is in progress. We've been making some progress. I know Simon's here, which is awesome. He works on the cloud native maturity model, which is one of the documents we want to make sure that this maturity model kind of speaks to. So it's not that it has to be the same, and it's not that it has to, it's actively a more detailed level than the cloud native one. But we want people who read one or the other to not feel lost if they go to the other one, not be completely different language, completely different structure, and all that kind of stuff. And actually, Simon, an update is Michael K, losing the last name, someone who's been working with you for the last few weeks or months. I just had a call with him this week, and he's keen to get involved and help with that, kind of making sure that we have similar voices as well as just adding to it in general. So that's great. So we'll continue to have more kind of crossover there. Asari, you've been doing an awesome job of making comments. Really appreciate all of that. And yeah, anyone else you can jump in. We are sort of getting really good comments, really starting to flesh out the alignment with both the cloud native maturity model and the platform white paper, and making sure that link, that we're sitting kind of between these papers and wanting to share language across them. Where I wouldn't say we have a ton of feedback yet is on, like, does it to the categories and aspects make sense? So I don't know if I'm taking that as a really good sign of the original proposal, or I think it's probably more so either a fear of making a big kind of statement with trying to change one of the aspects, or maybe just not enough time to think deeply about it. But I think that's where we want to make sure that these aspects that people are thinking on are the right ones, are as best as we can. They're driving people in the right direction. So please don't, at this stage especially, don't feel any fear of suggesting big changes. Our goal is to keep this really in the whip stage for another kind of month or two at least. And we're looking at kind of into September when we are going to start to look at, okay, are we prepared to say that KubeCon Chicago is the target release date? Yes, that's a hope, but if we're coming into September with still some big open questions, we're not going to push it. Like this, it's important we do this right. So, but that's sort of our target, is seeing how we feel in September. So, yeah.
I'm kind of thinking in my head how the first paper went. We kind of got together and got some momentum going at KubeCon. Then we had kind of the post KubeCon lull for like a month, 6 weeks.
Feeling that a little bit right now.
Yeah.
Still a little bit. I think
like
everyone's coming off the spring conference ridiculousness. So
yeah, and I feel like we really got down to work. We did a lot of good work in December, and then in when did we get it? I don't think we got it into GitHub till February 1st.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Finish it by the end of December. Like, we'll finish it by the end of January. We'll get it into GitHub by the end of January. And so then we had like 2 months to kind of iterate in GitHub. So yeah, that makes sense. Like September 1st, if you can get it in GitHub by then that will put us on.
That's the working backwards math that I did based on your leadership for the white paper. That seemed to work well. So I figured, why recreate the wheel if it worked okay? And we'll see. You know, we'll evolve with this group of people that are working on this piece of paper to see if that changes. But it's a good structure to at least start with. So yeah.
Cool. Has anybody else heard? So yeah, like I was saying, like in our meetup last night and in other times that, you know, we had Red Hat Summit, and I am getting a lot of like I even met with Abhinav Mishra, if you all recall. He's part of our group too, and he brought this up. He was talking about journeys, and I kind of said the maturity model could facilitate journeys. I feel like a lot of people are asking for this like next step. That's kind of how I see it. Does that make sense to folks? Are you hearing other asks related?
Sorry, as someone without context of journeys, can you briefly explain that?
What he meant was, if I am today, running VMs and, jars, what would be kind of my pathway to getting to this cloud native platform, promise? Like, what are the steps along the way? Maybe the first thing is I containerize, then I go to Kubernetes. I don't know, that kind of a journey. And so it actually kind of like he thought he didn't associate it with the maturity model, but I was like, wait, the maturity model's got like 4 columns, and it's kind of like choose your own adventure through here. What's most important? You maybe don't ever get to the end in some things, and some you do. So that was my thought on what journeys meant, and Abhinav seemed to resonate with that. So I'm kind of tying it all back to the maturity model is our answer to this ask.
I think that there is a little bit of a race to get the next level of detail down from the white paper solidified, or at least provisionally solidified, because I think a lot of people are actually, what I'm hearing is a lot of people asking for like blueprints, like like architectures, like things like that, which I think are absolutely reasonable asks. I also think those without a little bit more of a step between the white paper and use this tech will be much more likely to cause harm than good. So like, I think we're talking about that with the GitHub issue that we have around the reference architecture, and like trying to pair with the work that's already being done one step above, right? So I feel like we're starting to create this little hierarchy of detail. White paper at the top, maturity model maybe next after that, some like principles that are like even more grounded than the kind of higher level outcomes that you get from the maturity model. And then from the principles, you can then start to say, here is a working prototype or a reference architecture or blueprint, whatever the phrasing is. Yeah, so I think that's things that I'm thinking about, is how do we give people the chance to ask good questions rather than just give them what might be seen as an answer, because I don't think that's going to work quite as well.
Yeah, and I was going to mention that because of my experience when I was at IBM, as far as always having a pre-canned answer for every problem, and it was kind of like an all blue stack. Or now with some of the stuff that was being done with OpenShift as far as an all red stack, and those platforms solve a lot of the problems, but for a lot of it, it's either you're buying all in or not, or it's a lot harder to deviate. And so if you come in with the reference architecture to begin with, you're saying all of these decisions have already been made, but you're not kind of aware of all of those decisions. So having that almost like hierarchy of needs for coming into what you need for the platform and how you navigate and kind of figuring out what is there. I think the structure you just laid out, Abby, is really good. So I'm definitely going to dive into the maturity model, because that was my background at IBM, was reference architectures and things like that as well. And so the breaking down at some point, like a case study of what the OpenShift platform is and what that gives you and how those decisions were made and how you kind of came to this point, but you're solving all the pieces that the maturity model and then the journeys are dictating. But that's one way of doing it. And obviously you could arrive at a different end state if you made different decisions or you did it at a different time. So just kind of bifurcating all of that and really strictly keeping that in those levels, I think is very valuable.
Yeah, so I'm still relatively new, not brand new to the Kubernetes CNCF community. One thing I've been going through the older Kubernetes earlier design videos and etc. I find it'd be interesting. I'd like to lead those discussions, but I don't have the knowledge and experience to lead the discussion about what lead to the current design of Kubernetes, and then what is there any gap, for example, for example, my understanding, like security, like user data store typically is still not part of a Kubernetes. It's just not designed that way. And that's my understanding. So in order to, I actually brought it up a couple meetings ago, is like, for example, if we use OpenShift as a platform, right, to replace public cloud, even just build a new public cloud using OpenShift, what is the gap, right? What is the remaining things to be done to do it? Is it even possible? So what is the sort of end state or roadmap? And knowing that technology, there's never an end state, right? Because now we have WebAssembly, right? So how to orchestrate WebAssembly VMs, if there is such a thing, is it possible to have you need to have a new orchestrator for WebAssembly? So I think that would be all interesting platform related questions. I know it's not simple enough. It's a, but I don't know. I think it'd be interesting to discuss somewhere. But I probably only can be a listener because I don't have enough knowledge about all this.
I think that's awesome. I think what kind of came out from that conversation was that there are several levels going down. Like the first paper was strategic, high level, North Star. This is how it should look at the end of the day. The maturity model, Abby, I think I heard from you, like that's still a little bit abstracted, but it gives more guidance. And then I think what I learned from this conversation is the journeys that kind of Abhinav was brought up with me and blueprints. You all are kind of thinking that's a step after the maturity model. And then finally, what Victor just brought up, like very detailed, I'm using Kubernetes as my orchestrator. What are the ins and outs of that? That feels like that's the very lowest. It might be in some of our, prototypes and reference implementations at some point.
Yeah, I think absolutely. Being able to understand where you've come from, make decisions as you go down, and always be able to pop back up and think back to the principles at the level above is really cool, is a really important kind of piece of this. So yeah, we should always be thinking about, like, how did someone get to this detail? How would someone have made this decision? Is there a clear path from the white paper down? And it might mean making updates to the white paper in learning about platforms. It might be that it's not a clear path, but that's because we've learned since we published the white paper, we need to make updates there. But that should be the conversation, I think. So
yeah, maybe I'll figure out a way to write that up, like the overall path that we're going down. And we can pursue some of those things in parallel. Like I wanted to mention to Rick, if you like building reference implementation, you don't have to wait for us to finish the rest of the stack. Asare, I know, has been working with Mauricio Salatino and Leanne to try to leverage Potato Head or maybe build some other, reference implementations. So yeah, if that's where people's passions are, check it out.
Yeah, and I think it'd even be wise to have a bit more organization around like that concept, because I think Abby, you've done a great job of sort of like really kind of getting people on the same page with just the maturity model. I think that this is a great kind of progression next step. I think it just needs some like coordination of like, okay, who is actually going to do what do we actually like want to see this kind of feed into, and that actually may impact the way that we finish writing this maturity model paper, depending on how some of those conversations potentially go. So yeah, that's something that just may be helpful.
So also I think Josh, so I have one insight into it. Like I have also created one issue in the GitHub repository. I like to see what people take on it, because when I'm talking to public currently right now regarding the CNCF platform white paper with several different companies and different individual, particularly the different startup as well, what their intent was from this paper, they think like this becomes a paper that become a shorten the loop of decision making. Like, Kubernetes has a steep learning curve associated with it. When you start driving into the Kubernetes, there's not just one, but you have to step up the ladder. Like, let's say if you want to use Kubernetes and deploy apps on top of it, you need to install ingress controller. For then logging and monitoring, you have Prometheus and Grafana. For service meshes, you have Istio or Linkerd. And for the GitOps, Flux and Argo CD, and the policy engine that is Opa and Kyverno. That is same thing happening to me right now when I'm talking to people on the internet. Like they think if they read this paper, this give them a clear insight, like what to choose for the next ladder and what is the next step for me to go through it. And they think like this may become in future a shortening loop back or feedback for them. So currently, when I'm speaking to about giving people gifts and resources, say they feel like that has not much in-depth information regarding what is the next step for me, because I doesn't know anything about cloud native or Kubernetes. And this platform give me the paths of where to go and where to check out these resources. So currently people see I think we have to work on these path line. Like I did shortening the decision making, what people is actually frequently asked me every time I do a podcast with some of the people. So I heard your opinion as well, when how other people think about this domain, because I can see like for me, it's for a developer point of view, this really is a challenge for me. Like what tool is next for me? I never able to figure it out unless I'm trying and testing it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think I tried to capture some of the things you just said, Saeem. I think what you're saying is when people read the paper, they're expecting help with those choices, and the paper doesn't really make the choices. It says, here's 12 capabilities, we think you should think about, and here's 5 projects in each one to evaluate, but it kind of leaves them there. And there, is that what you're saying, that people want to know, okay, so why would I use Kubernetes versus Cloud Run versus Knative or EC2? Why would I use Grafana versus whatever, Open Telemetry? Or I guess those are different, but
yes, absolutely, that is really the challenge for me right now. Every time, because for more often I try to share this paper link in a week or 2 weeks, so people try to commenting and talking on the internet about these paper. And that's a clear intent right now, because they see like CNCF platform white paper, and we have so many technology stack, and it's bombardment of the technology stack in existence. So they feel like this is the group responsibility to let everybody on board. Like, here are the choices. This is a use case. Let's pick that choose. Then I try to talk about people go to the cloud native maturity model. This is discussing the same dilemma. So they say like, it's good, but in here, we want to have a shortening the decision making. Like, I am a startup, I want to build a platform. I doesn't know like what to integrate into my platform. So this one paper is actually give me the shortest possible time to think about it. What is the mandatory step for me? What is the mandatory tools and infrastructure or things or services should be in the platform? And they say like, currently we don't see this help much on this path. So that is actually what I'm expecting. Might be some people here on the other call, they have some different opinions, but I'm morely on the public side. So that actually I'm right now facing it.
I agree with that completely. From the aspect of, for me, sitting on both sides, where previously being someone who authored a lot of this content, and now somebody who needs this content to be able to go and use that to say, this is what I want to build. The white paper is giving us a general shopping list of what we could go out there and consume. But now we need some help in saying, oh, well, if I pick this one, then I should also pick this one. Or if I'm coming at it to solve this problem, you should really go with this one, and then you'll have less issues integrating with this one. So having like I didn't click on the link yet, but the phrase you used in your issue as far as fast forward decision making is very helpful. And probably about 6-7 years ago, I wrote a paper on that for just microservices in general for IBM. And so it's very used to that as far as itemizing all of that and kind of saying, we have a lot of the capability domains inside of platforms, but now saying, when you want to do X, you can choose this one. And the comment that was made in Abby's issue about king making, I don't think we have to do that as long as we elaborate and clarify ourselves as far as why decisions are being made, or we kind of back that up with data. And it's not at just as much of a predisposed notion of what's there, because I think we all kind of have our different go-to tools as far as what we do and personally in projects. But I think coming together at it as far as getting just more source data and more use cases can help clarify that and kind of flatten the bell curve of what things get selected when.
So I'm a bit weary of, I think, the trajectory of this conversation. Specifically, like I like the ideas. I think they're interesting. I think they make sense. Like, it would be nice to have. I think it can be tricky when you start to prescribe tools, especially with the rate that they change. It can, I don't know, like that's a very tough path, not only to like start, but also to maintain, like as things change and as situations change, and they change quickly. We all know that. So it's, I think it's a good idea. I think it's something that would have to be thought through really well in terms of like what it would be the long-term sustainability of starting something like this. So it's just another thing to think about.
I think that's one of the challenges around the open issue around a reference architecture that's been talked about, right? Is that is a reasonable and like really helpful thing for us to be doing, and we're really far on that path, which is awesome. But how do we make it so that that is sustainable for this group to maintain as the things move forward, especially when there's so many like sandbox level projects in there? They're going to be updating, releasing weekly, right? Like more, maybe more. So there's that. And then there's also, how do you actually do comparisons? What are you actually deciding between and how? And that's why that whole, like, we can't jump from white paper down to reference architecture. We also can't snap our fingers and have, you know, really well thought out and written documents at every tier of depth between the two, you know, tomorrow. But that's what we have to work towards, is give people that, if they're looking at that reference architecture, they're like, but that seems funny to see that technology there. They can understand where it came from, what the decisions were, what other technologies play in that space, et cetera. One tier up in detail, ideally.
Yes, I got it. So here's my one key takeaway from this conversation. So I think there's a two specifically intended audience, the
Your
stuff we are
audio is
working on
off.
currently. Is it good now, Josh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Start the last thought, if you
So
don't-
just I'm thinking like, currently there is two attended audience that is actually taking or their eyes towards us. Number one is that actually the users of the cloud native technology stack who had very little knowledge and they want to accelerate by reading the paper. That is the one audience, and that is audience is used. You can know like this audience is 80 to 90% of them. Then the 10% of the audience is actually the companies and the vendors and other public sector. And they actually looking at us that we can make some coins, the new terminologies that eventually become a standard. And when actually vendor specified their tool, then they define those technologies according to what we actually, what actually we actually standardize. Let's say right now, people talking about policy and the governance. Everybody understands is what the policy is. They think like this, subtle things to be in your Kubernetes cluster to check on a daily basis. So that is another audience that's checking toward us, because currently for the platform engineering, if you look at the platform engineering, we have 20 different definitions on the internet. Even if you look at the self-service, how people actually define self-service is not just a one definition, it's a plethora of definition. So some people and the majority of the vendors looking towards this group to standardize those definitions. So there is a two domains into it. One is I'm actually completely agree. I think with Josh and me, we have so much debate in the past. Like we never tell people like choose Kyberno over OPA or Argo CD over Flux. But general opinion was to actually tell people your cluster has to be a policy and governance, consistent automation, security preparedness. Those are the words that have some vendor specific to. We're not letting you like usual Kyberno or OPA, but we tell you there's the policy, pipelines, and auditing is must to have it. And when we define the term platform engineering, that is actually a picture of what we're actually telling the people. So I think we had, that is very, I know this is a very complicated and a very sophisticated way to think about it. but specifically these are the two audience that will actually the conversation that we talking to, listening to Abby and other people, we have same question being raised to all of us, but the different angles. Like Abhinav is talking about the journey. I'm talking about the decision making. And other group talking about let's forget about Kaivarno or OPA or Flux CD or Argo CD. So the question is still remains the same. So we need to figure out how we answer this in a consistent manner.
Those are really good insights. I feel like it all kind of, for me, is trending into something we kind of talked about, but I guess we're not really pursuing, which is within those capability domains, kind of going a level deeper, comparing and contrasting, you know, the 10 CNCF projects for governance and policy or something. And then I guess it would be not just comparing, but coming out with a common language is kind of what you're saying, Saeem. Right? So like if I put this down as a possible idea, like that maybe could help, like, is that what you're getting at? Like let's say databases, we could talk with the storage team and say there's 10 different CNCF projects for running a database in Kubernetes. Here's the ups and downs of both. Here's the 5 characteristics that are most important or that you might want to think about. Does that, I'm trying to, like, based on this, I'm solutioning a little bit, but like, is this where you're going with the problem?
Yes, actually, absolutely. I think that if you think about this problem is currently, I think the better way to think about it, like in a platform, you have these 5, 6 things visible, and all the, if you look at the internet, everybody is talking about policy and governance. Everybody is talking about self-service infrastructure. Everybody is talking about consistent automation or provisioning and deprovisioning, shift left, shift down. These are the terminologies widely accepted, and nobody has different opinion. There is one very subtle missing piece in here. They're defining it in a very, very different way. A same term being defined with 14 different ways. And yes, absolutely. And the problem people seen is, like, if I'm reading the platform white paper, then there is one terminology that in future might become everyone, people say, like, forget about you, but at least you do this thing with shift left. At least you do this thing with shift down. At least you do this thing with policy and governance. So meaning, like, as you said, Josh, like, we can tell people for the policy and governance, these are the 4 pillars. So 4 pillars defined. By reading these 4 pillars or digesting the data about the 4 pillars, people like think like we can use Kyverno or OPA. They can make fast moving decisions. That's what I'm actually thinking about. So I think it's tougher, but I think we have to carry forward this discussion more, because I think a lot of people, Mauricio, Josh, Abby, all of us having the same questions with different angles. And actually talking to the people with the different insights, they might become like, they are all have some different opinions. So it might look very weirdy when we're talking to the public in general.
I just think it's different levels of abstraction. So I think it's important that we, like, I don't think any of these things are disagreements and like that they be valuable. I think that there's different speeds of feedback loops or different like abstraction layers. Like the speed at which you need to be moving if you're going to be talking about specific projects isn't the speed my brain is currently working on. Doesn't mean I can't in the future, and like it doesn't mean I don't think it'd be fantastic to see people doing that work. But like I think the white paper, I'm sort of chewing my way down the stack from the white paper. That's the way my brain is currently working. But that's why we've got the diverse group to be able to make sure that we're covering the different angles as people need them. So.
And a lot of it is, as far as going back to the one comment about it kind of keeping current, like from the decision-making point of view, like the decisions you have to make generally won't change. Like the decisions are going to be pretty static, or the decision points are going to be pretty static. What solves those, yes, are going to rapidly change, and all these projects are going to change. Some of them will merge, some of them will be completely gone. So the kind of jumping from these are the questions I have to solve, and this product at this point in time will solve that. Like that is a specific document that has a very specific shelf life versus the larger decision guide of we've got the high level here, and then I haven't looked at it yet, but the maturity matrix, the next level down, and then below that would be the decision points for how do I navigate some of the structures inside of the maturity matrix, and then you can have a current, like, this is for summer 2023 answers for our decision guides, and then keep kind of current revisiting that. And so again, having that level of abstraction and knowing which level is specific for which purpose is going to give us the kind of the best longevity there and applicability.
Yeah, I was just thinking as well, just a couple of points have come to my mind just through this conversation. One is on the levels of abstraction. I see that as well and agree with that point. Just a couple of things. So one perhaps on the language side and on, for example, the definitions, perhaps around, for example, policy and such like. One of the things I wonder is, just thinking about the wider CNCF, is for example, there's the glossary that has a lot of definitions that's been populated over time. And I wonder if there might be a space here where perhaps some of if there are things that are lacking out of the glossary, that they could eventually be contributed there, and vice versa. Also the cloud native maturity model briefly talks about things like policy. I'm just using that as an easy example at the moment. And then I wonder if in a discussion, you've got degrees of abstraction, and as you become more refined, maybe one way to make the decision easier might be to consider, well, if there is going to be discussion of tooling, things that are graduated, for example, are really great candidates to be discussed because they're well established and well understood. And maybe part of the job starting out might be to make it quite easy and narrow the scope, and don't try running through the sandbox because it's changing so quickly. And the point of the sandbox is that some of those may not ever make it to incubating or let alone graduate. So I'm just sort of trying to think of this as well through a wider sort of CNCF type context. Yeah, that's probably just a couple of things. I hope I've managed to keep up. Yeah.
I think what you're saying makes sense, and it brings up even more questions about, like, a lot of these tools tie into cloud specific tools. So how do you start to engage in even like those dialogues of like, well, where does kind of the line stop when you're sort of trying to talk through some of these things? It's kind of, those are some of the conversations I totally agree that need to be had.
So I'm kind of taking away from both of these conversations that it might help to have a bit of, I heard from Simon, like saying, like, you left placeholders and there's things to be filled in. Maybe we almost create a matrix, and I'm kind of thinking of it as horizontal things, like the paper that we already released is kind of a strategic cross-cutting. Even the maturity model is kind of a horizontal cross-cutting. There may be even another layer down that's still horizontal cross-cutting, but at the same time, the capability domains and decisions within those, they almost make me think of like verticals, like within the database area, can we help define choice decision-making trees within those verticals. So maybe if like I'm almost like, I don't know, maybe in the website structure, or maybe just on a piece of paper to begin with, just here's the things we're working on and here's where you can fill in. Like maybe there's someone really passionate about observability that wants to, or point us to the tag observability doc on it or something.
Yes, George. I think the one thing from this, like, I think when the Kubernetes started, one thing I really like about this notion is we started in 2014, 2015, when there is so much containers or a container engine popping up in the market, like Docker, Rocket, and there's so much. What CNCF does is they actually onboard all of the people members and let them understand how you define the container engine. And everybody come up with the interface. Like there should be an interface, irrespective of how is actually being implemented by the low level abstract. So I would like to think as a platform engineering is the same way. Like we came up with a survey paper with some of the folk. We already create some survey, Google Docs form, people fill in survey. Like I think like what is actually really interesting to understand, like we have the full knowledge of all the terminology or the coins being termed out in the wider umbrella, like shift left, shift down, self-service, all these terminology we have the bigger overview of. We can actually add the document or the doc that people can understand. These are the things we actually need to think about it. Then we have some definitions. If that visible in the paper, that has a great reflection on the reader of that paper as well. Because usually what people think about white paper is like, this is a bigger user group that define the terminologies. But when they see some terminologies being coined up from the outer side, like they feel like they have this, there are two notions going on. So like, I think like as Josh mentioned, matrix of different, I see their internet, there are some metrics available. We could use those metrics, like here are the different terminologies being coined up in the marketplace. But like, I think what I'm thinking here is currently in this moment of time, when I'm trying to submit a PR in the paper, is like platform white paper should be an interface to the people who think about the platform. So
You mean by interface like a real programmatic interface, or just like what you're saying, like standard language?
I think like is a thinking prospectus. Like the coin, like they pursue this to be an interface, like they're giving us a knowledge about the platform engineering, and we have full opinion of agreed or disagreed. Like that's the same terminology being coined up by the cloud native maturity model in the past. Like they said, we give you the thinking point of how the cloud maturity has to think about it. It's up to you. By reading the content, you have to agree or disagree or make some assumption about it or suggestion or the feedback. So that is I think the ideal conversation to go through in the later down the road. Like regardless of like what we actually talk about, so many different things, because having the same opinions being coined up with the loss of the different meetings. And like when you talk in the public, I like it might be only happening to me at this moment of time. Like people pursuing us to give us new terminologies that we actually investing from you. We look at you, that you are the bigger CNCF working group that let us know how to define these platform engineering or platform or measuring the success metrics of the platform, not the vendors. But this group has to tell us. So that is actually expectation from the public audience for us. So my thinking is irrespective of the way the communication going, we have to think about like what the cloud native maturity model does on their several meetings. Like think about us as we giving you the knowledge of how you think about cloud native maturity model. Is up to you, agree or disagree, make some assumption about it, is totally fine. And if you find some adjustment to be made in the maturity model, suggestion, appreciation, feedback is always welcoming. So that is where we actually go. Like we develop a implementation mind thinking or platform thinking. So this paper is giving you the knowledge about how you think about the platform. So I think that's the easier road to go through.
Okay. I really like the idea that like there's an interface for humans too. That's what, like, it's not just the API level. It's like, how do we make sure we're all talking the same? We mean the same things when we talk. Cool. I mean, I'm taking definitely a takeaway. Thank you for your seconding, Abby. You try to create a skeleton so people can fall in and do the things that they're passionate about. Because that's another thing going through my head as you talk, Saeem, is like, these are great things we have, but each one needs, pretty big investment of time by somebody, a group of people.
We've got a thing around updating the website with some of the ongoing projects, right? So I could possibly make an update to that issue just to, I don't know who's kind of working on that, but I can at least make an update to what we chatted about here to make sure that when the update happens, it's thinking in this structure. a bit. So
Yeah, we could write a post about it. Yeah, or there's a few ways. That would be great. Is that the one with Leanne that Leanne opened?
I think so. Where is it? Restructuring tags? So yeah, Leanne opened it. Yep. And I think Colin
Yeah,
responded to it, and I was just saying that I'd been recommended to do that. So yes, on board. So yeah, I'll make an update as to like, yeah, just seconding, and that it was and possibly introducing this kind of structure of fidelity or detail that we're talking about here for the different things we're working on. Cool.
thank you, Abby.
Stress.
The last item that the last two I'm going to skip, but there's Saeem, you put down also how to measure successive platforms. Do you want to talk about? I think we have a couple more minutes here if everyone's okay with that. Is there anything else we want to talk about? I'm fine with talking about that for the last few minutes.
Yes, I think like I've scrolled through, I created some of the diagram, created some of the materials in there for the measure with the platform. I think that is where I see a challenge in the ecosystem is that I read about all the content, look at the chat GPT, what they think about it, look at the various different sources, is a challenge. Like the key performance indicator is always being different here. That is a big pain point. I'm talking to the Covery on my podcast, and we did a talk on the same title. Had he mentioned like user friendliness, developer happiness, like what we actually MMTR, CFFR, that we actually think about it. When I talked to another Rowdy team in the past, they have completely different set of opinion of measuring the success. Like they think about mostly around backstage thing. And then I look at the GoPort team of their thinking point of how they measure it. It's completely different right now. Currently, what I'm doing is, regardless of telling like everybody is bad, this is not a good thing of measuring. I'm actually congesting all the data in one document. Like what are the different thinking point of view to the people? So when we have all these document data available, I will share with the team, not just a very huge 200 of people, just the terminologies, just the 20 or 300 terms that people think about it. Then we actually debate on like from 300 words or 400 words or 400 terms, what to concatenate in our platform white paper, because it's not possible to add 300 terminologies. It's so confusing. Eventually letting people know, like, tell us what you think about how to measure it, even include all the data. So currently my planning with the last 2 months is totally around concatenated all the data in one place and think about it. And that's why I'm thinking like, this is the topic we should be pursuing the CFP and submission for, because that's a huge number of audience available that give us a huge visibility. Like according to what we actually learned from this group, this is our metrics for the measurements platform and platform team. And from that, we can actually carry this wave forward. That might be a good approach to think about it, but I'm open to see what our other things about it.
I mean, I think this is great. I think we had this was a struggle for us in the paper. We didn't really have very much measures in there to begin with. And the feedback was you need to have something around this. And so, we did put the DORA metrics in there, but we wanted something bigger than that. And so we developed kind of a thesis of our own, I think, to some degree. So we definitely want feedback. I posted in there, how to measure what we put down. I think, Mauricio had some comments there and, stuff like that, but there's a lot of room to vet that and make sense. I mean, we saw the same thing that you're describing, Saeem. There weren't that many thoughts actually on it, which is the same thing as there being a million in some ways. Like everyone's still trying to think about it. So that's awesome that you're doing that. Maybe once you have it concatenated, open up an issue and just share what you've written with us, and we can all kind of think it over and iterate maybe on that whole section.
Yeah, sure, Abby. Absolutely. I will update the issue.
Yeah. And whoever wrote down the feedback is key. Yeah, exactly. That's you know, we're running the survey, and like, if people are passionate about that, like I could use I mean, Michael's helping on the survey. He's not here on this call now, but we could leverage that more, and people are offering to talk to us, but we need to follow up with them. We kind of need an interview framework of some sort. If anyone's passionate, I mean, I don't want to say I'm gonna do that, but I'm gonna try to help. Right now, I'm focused on the maturity model. But yeah, if there are people that are passionate, we're always happy to get more help.
I think
Any
there's
other
people
thoughts?
working on the community side of things that maybe would be good people to get involved in that as well, right? Because if they're the ones making the connections with people, also doing some of the interviews and things, I think is, I mean, don't want to speak for people, I'm just saying that's a good group of good group of humans to talk to about if we need more support on the kind of interviewing side.
And you know what? Like we could even bring them in right here. Like Saeem, if you talk to somebody in your podcast and they want to come and share for 10 minutes with us, their feedback on how they're measured, I think that would be awesome.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. I talked to Covery, and he is in the AWS week this one, but he said like I will join Future Minute for sure. And there's one of the guy from the WeWork team that's called Alexis Richardson from the WeWork.
Oh yeah, WeWorks, yeah.
Yes. I actually chatted about something on the Twitter, and I'm encouraging, please join this chapter because this is created for this discussion. So we'll have it. I'm trying very hard to give some people on board, but I'm very glad, like we connected very wonderful individual every new week, some new faces, some new mind.
Yeah.
That's a great thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that one of our, I think that is actually one of the ways people can contribute to our group. And, you know, we tried to bring this up a little around KubeCon. It's hard to say that, but like if somebody has a story from their own organization, like we should have it on the agenda, and we will, I mean, certainly in this group, we'll give them 10 or 15 minutes and want to learn from them. So bring them in. That's the, I mean, forget the survey. If that's the easiest thing, we'll just talk to them directly. Would be awesome. End users. It's all about the end users.
Yes, absolutely. I think maybe like we can do more tweeting. Like every time we have a meeting in place, we can actually have some bot or anything is in place. They can send out a tweet before the meeting and send out a tweet after the meeting. So then like how the other working group are doing. Like I think that is where we can actually do some automation. Might people generate interest, share the link on the Zoom for in public on different Slack channels or in the ambassador channels. That way you bring more people to vote.
So you might want to talk with Leanne. She's kind of thinking about her and Jorge about some sort of newsletter, but maybe it's not a newsletter. Maybe it's a blog post every couple of weeks. You know, here's the topics we talked about. Here's a couple latest trends, and remember, please come and share with us. You know, that's how we're learning, or something like that. Saeem, I'm signing you up.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, it's a great idea.
So Leren is actually currently working on that. So I need to touch bases with her.
Maybe, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I will ping to see what the state, but definitely that's a wonderful insight as well, because I'm running a Cube weekly newsletter and I don't have anything to place in there from this discussion. So having blog is very, very important because now we have a website available. So we utilize our blog on that posting as well. We can do some post like it can be automated, like everybody can write a blog post, submit it to the GitHub repository and GitHub action trigger in, and that's publicly available. That's how all the open source projects are doing. So these are the definitely to-do list item to work with, but that is actually I can take it because I love to do these kind of stuff, especially the advent of ChatGPT. The blogging is easy.
Great. Yeah. Submit a PR. I mean, it has to be approved and we'll iterate, but like, yeah, submit a PR against the blog repo and that would be awesome. It's mostly my stuff right now. So I would love some more to get in there. Okay. I think we're about at time. Yeah, Abby, what's up?
I was gonna say, I've got to pop away. So I was just gonna say, I didn't know if you need the time check, but yeah, I will see you all in a few weeks. Hopefully soon at some of the other events.
All right. Good to see everyone. We'll see you online. Thanks a lot. Thanks for all your help. A lot of stuff today.
Thanks,
Bye.
Josh. Thanks,
Thanks
Josh.
all.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.